Hello, Latino Arts Festival. We are live here on this Tuesday evening with Jasmin Salas, an amazing artist. Say hello, Jasmin.
Hi.
Shout out to the world. We are here on Facebook Live. We are here on YouTube Live. We are coming at you fresh, and we are going to talk about visual art tonight. Is that what you would say? You're a visual artist, Jasmin, right?
Yeah.
And what mediums and sort of tools do you do to bring your vision to life?
Um, Regular things like just anything that comes to mind.
And anything you can grab your hands on. What do you go to the art store, or like where do you get your supplies to begin?
Um, well, the art store, yeah, mostly take it from my brothers. So.
That's fine too. Um, and you're currently a high school student, is that right?
Yes,
And are you involved in the art program at the school, or are you just very independent and you do your own thing?
independent.
That's great. I was very much like that in school too. And my question for you is, take us all the way back. Like, how did you begin? Like, were you always like, drawing on napkins or making a mess with paint? Like, how early did you begin being
Um,
creative?
well, guess since I was little, like before elementary school, because my grandma she painted. My mom she draws like minimal, but she still does it, and my brothers were the main ones. They like they were the ones that kept it simple with me. Like, this is how you do it, and this is how you draw. Like, mostly from them.
That's so cool. So you come from a whole sort of generations of family of like very
Yeah.
visually creative people. Would you say that what you make is different than what they make, or what do you think makes yours stand apart from theirs?
Oh, well, sometimes they like, well, they're more of like the more Chicano art, and one of them is like more Chicano, one of them draws like anime cartoons, and the other one is like just there for anything.
And we've had a lot of Chicano artists that I've talked to in the past few weeks who draw on specific images or symbols or sort of cultural artifacts that show up in the art. Could you give us a demonstration of what you do? I would love to see the way one of your works sort of is in conversation with these other artists.
Uh, let's see if I can do it.
Oh, I love that. And what
Yeah.
is it? Is that someone's name on the? It may be different in the camera, right? Or
Oh,
what does it
it
say?
says immigrant. Like
It
she
says
should have
immigrant.
left it off.
Hmm. I love the color. Can you bring it a little closer to the camera,
Yeah.
just so everyone out in the interweb can see? It says immigrant, and I love that her glasses sort of. I wear glasses too, so it's kind of like this like nothing's getting past her, right? She's seen it all. And
Yeah.
do you name your works of art? Would you do you have a name for that one, or do you just create them?
Well, I call it as it is already immigrant.
You call
Cause
it immigrant.
yeah, because I mostly did this one because as growing up in moving over here to Kansas. Before that, I used to live in Missouri, so it was like mostly not that many Mexican people over there, and they would always be like immigrant or you don't have papers or this and that. So it's always like they see us as immigrants, and we always have to deal with that. Sometimes we need to brush it off.
Yeah, and I like that you've kind of taken it beyond brushing it off of sort of bringing it to the canvas or elevating that sort of power and all that word contains. I love that you've taken it back completely by making it into art. That's so cool.
Yeah, and I use Consuela because she was. People always mention her to my mom because we always used to do things like her. Like growing up, we had to go to work with her to keep
Hmm.
living. So basically, that's how people see us. That's how they reference us in the past.
Yeah, and can you show us another glimpse of sort of the work you do as well? Let's see what's
Oh,
next.
this one.
Oh, I love the color in
Hopefully,
that. Can you bring it just a little bit closer? There we go. So we can really see the brushstrokes and everything. And what was your inspiration for this? What drew you to those colors and to the sort of almost abstract look of it?
um, for our class, we had to make like a waterfall type.
Hmm.
like sort of thing. So I was trying to reference all the like the background as a little sunset thing, but it didn't work as planned. And then the water is at the bottom.
I love the idea that here in Kansas, I don't think I've seen a lot of waterfalls. So I love the idea if I wanted a waterfall, I'd probably have to have this on my wall. Though speaking of that, is anything you're going to show us tonight for sale for anyone out there in the interwebs who might be very inspired by your work?
Um, the Consuela one, the waterfall, and there's actually this one. It's a really big canvas painting.
Okay, yeah, and you can sort of bring it to us. There we go. Oh, I love that. I love this sort of outline. It really reminds me of like kind of pop art or Lichtenstein, almost the
Yeah.
kind of like Andy Warhol like portrait of something. What drew you to make that particular portrait?
Is just because whenever he died, it was sort of like a really big thing to people always watching him, and like I watched the child growing up, so it was like, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of it. I was saying it reminds me of those portraits because it's almost kind of like sort of like I've been saying like religious iconography or sort of images that belong to everyone, or when everyone sees it, we all have a connection to it. I love that an artist can really sort of lift that up and tell those stories. And then what type of paint did you use for that last one? Can you actually show it again?
The
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you do it on matte? Like what kind of like medium do you use for canvas and also for paint?
yeah, think I do, but wait, could you rephrase that?
What on the paper itself? What kind of
Yeah.
paper do you paint on?
Oh, it's just a regular painting canvas.
Painting canvas.
Yeah.
And I'm not visually talented, so I have to ask these questions. But if I wanted painting canvas, what art store do you go to in the local area?
I actually don't even know. I think there's a Michael's around here.
Mm-hmm.
That,
A
like,
Michaels would have that.
yeah.
Great. And when you decide to like sort of when you work with color, you were saying in the last one that it was sort of nature or sort of water and sunset that sort of drove you. When you did the one you just showed us, how do you know what color to use? Like how does it just an impulse? What?
Just what goes together, like dark colors with dark and then light. And sometimes it has to be like visually shown. Like if you look at a picture, it's like dark in that place, so you have to make it dark.
Mm-hmm. And you've said that the three we just said might be available. We're going to make sure that we have a link to Cash App in the chat after this interview, so everyone stay tuned, or everyone that's watching this after the fact. You can find the link to contact Jasmin. You said you had some other works to share with us. Is that right?
Yeah, there were just some simple ones. Like this one I made some time ago, but I was just okay with it.
Oh, I really like. Can you bring it a little closer so I can see it?
Yeah.
The color more. Oh wow, that's such a beautiful sunset.
Yeah.
Is that of Kansas City or is sunset or?
It was supposed to be like the border. It was supposed to make a
Yes.
statement piece or something. It was supposed to say you would still see beauty behind what we hate, like what people hate. There was still there's still good behind it.
Yeah, and I love the idea that the horizon belongs to everyone, right? Like there's no border on a horizon, from what you see. Could I see it just one more time?
Yeah.
I love that you've painted it just so natural and yeah, sort of like an open, almost like a desert vista.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful story behind that. Could you show us another one?
These are just some simple ones.
Oh wow! Could you even bring it a little closer?
Yeah.
Just so we can see the detail and everything. That one kind of reminds me of like Van Gogh, or that sort of like a tumultuous almost like Starry Night or something like that. Was it the nighttime that inspired you to do that one?
No, I just saw colors. I was like, might as well do it because there's so many simple things. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that, like you're saying, that sometimes you just know what color to use, or you just, or once you start using one or the other. Have you ever found that you make a mistake while painting, and then the
Oh,
thing that you make a mistake of is something you like more?
the yeah, actually, yeah. This one, the simple one, but on the side, let's see if I can show it. Or
And what part of that were you sort of like, oh no, I made a mistake, or it wasn't exactly what you wanted?
the pink part where it has
Uh-huh.
the pink, it kind of looked like a flower at first, and I tried to redraw it, and I was like, it was already good at the moment, so I just left it.
When it's kind of, I think sometimes those moments like that, those human moments, I think that can be what I even think can drive the value of art up, or can sort of engage the person looking at it with sort of a mystery of what the process is like. Because
Yeah.
when we see your art, we're always like, oh, it's finished, it's forever, like that is it. And sometimes you're watching what someone was really working really hard on. Are there any paintings that you've really that were just like so difficult to make, but then when they were done, you were so proud?
Um, I think it was this one.
This one, can you even bring it a little closer again? Thank you. Yeah, I love all of the color in that.
Yeah, the red was going under the blue, so I kept on trying to make it come out, and like I finally got it there, so I just left it, and it was like it's a watercolor, so it took so long to dry.
Yeah, I'd never even thought about that. So when you use watercolor as opposed to other paint, does the process of drying, right, when it's
Yeah,
no longer becoming water, does that affect how you think it will look?
yeah. Sometimes whenever like oil, like with the oil pastel ones, like those, they usually smudge. That's why I don't do it as much as paint. And then the acrylic one dries faster, but with the is it the watercolor paint? Every time you try to do something as quick, it always messes it up and it like gets to the other color. So yeah,
It's sort of like a battle of like what color is gonna be the most powerful one, right?
yeah,
Um, you mentioned briefly that you would sometimes borrow different paints, like from your brothers, because they're also creative. Has that ever happened to on the other side, where you're going to your paint stuff
no,
and your sibling has taken something?
no, it's always me to them.
It's always you. But I guess they know where to find it if they're like missing a certain like acrylic yellow.
Yeah.
Well, it all turns into beautiful art, no matter what. Well, I've asked this to our other student artists. What would you say to someone, say maybe 10 years younger than you, or someone that is a little nervous to start painting or to even walk into an art store? Like, what would you give advice to a much younger artist that's a little nervous to start?
Uh, well, start off with a good intention. Like, don't think of like, well, good intentions and the bad because the bad ones always keep you going. It's like I want to do this because it reminds me of that. It's just yeah. Have a good look on things. That's it.
I like that. And we can see that intention even a little bit of the work you've shown me, like sort of the idea of like, what if we make the border look so beautiful that its beauty is undeniable, to prove that hatred has no power, right? I like the idea that if you show up with the work of art with that kind of intention, that beauty is going to come of it because of what the artist wants. Does that resonate with you? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Um, and I also think that, do you think that artists, sometimes painters, they go through phases, or sometimes they want to work with different materials? Is there any material that you want to work with, like that's different? Or have you thought about going into other sculpture or just other things? Is there anything you're curious to try?
Well, at first it was watercolor, but then I was like, nah. And then another one was sculpting, but that took too long. I was like,
There was an artist that I talked to, I think last week, Andrew Perez, who'd begun using spray paint on canvas, and I don't even think I've ever like heard of that. I'd only ever thought to like, you know, use spray paint outside. But I think that there are so many different options for people out there who want to be creative. So I'm curious to see if you change the medium you use in the future. But you're happy for now. You're like acrylic paint on canvas with Michaels is how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And where would you see these things if you could kind of dream a home for them, right? Or the type of person that would buy this art? Where do you see this? What kind of wall? What kind of space?
Anyone, like anyone could buy this. It's not really the type of person. Just how you look at what the person is like, why they're buying it.
Yeah, why they're, like you said, the intention of not where in the home it wants to go up, but the feeling the person gets from it. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Do you have any other paintings or canvases to show us tonight?
I have the same one as the other one, but it's just mix of purple.
Oh, I love that. Hold on, can you hold that up even a little closer so we can see? I love almost like it. Like I said, it kind of reminds me of a sky or like a clash of a color of purple and white and everything.
Yeah, and I think there's this one too.
Oh, yeah, and that is so peaceful. And that's another horizon, right? With the sun in the back.
Yeah.
And is that a particular body of water that you've captured there?
No, not precisely. It's just the ocean is
Just the one in your imagination, right?
I guess that day it was like calm and it was just relaxing that day, so it was like pretty small.
Yeah, well, that work has a huge sense of like peace and, like I said, almost like it's like the end of a beautiful day, right?
Yeah.
My other question for you is, where do you see your art taking you, or what kind of future are you imagining for yourself? Galleries, glamour, or maybe just like a life or a process or creativity? Where do you see this going in the future?
I don't precisely see it as like going into like deep detail, like, oh, I'm gonna go big on this. I just wanted to like what is it? The Consuelo one, the one that says immigrant. I want people to see like there's not just you in the world that feel that same way. Like I just want to express to people how many emotions could affect others. Like, hey, you're not the only one. There's other people too. Like it's just the emotions that I'm trying to put out there.
Yeah, I like that sort of the career of an artist sometimes just comes from not a feeling they have, but a message they have to share with the world, right? Then sometimes the rest of the career comes from that. Maybe we'll keep looking to see what's next for you.
Yeah.
And in terms of artists who influence you, is there any sort of artist, or as you're a student or learning things, and it doesn't even need to be a visual artist, it could be like a musical or a historical person, who do you look to sort of inspire you to keep going?
Well, it's not really such as a whole historical person, just like watching the whole show Family Guy and the references that they make. There's a lot of things that you see in it that would be offending to people, but they mostly take it as jokes. And it's like cartoons, basically, like shows.
And I think sometimes cartoons or even just humor, right? Bringing lightness to things. I think you're right. There is a lot of power in cartoons because
Yeah.
I think maybe because it looks cute, or maybe more vulnerable to think about something more difficult.
Especially
You know?
for children, they would always think that's okay. And I'm trying to show the point, like, hey, like, this is not okay. Like, especially to the new generation, there's many things that are being shown to them that shouldn't. Like, going out to parties while in COVID, like, they think that's okay, but it's not.
Mm-hmm. And I think you're right. Art's a great way to get those messages out there, or those things you're thinking and feeling.
Yeah.
Is there anything other canvases or other things you want to show us tonight?
No.
Um, before we wrap up, I have to ask you, here going live at Latino Arts Festival, do you have any shout outs? Do you have any teachers or friends that you want to say hello to?
Mostly my family, and then just counselors too,
Mhm.
because they've helped a lot.
And are you attending school in person, or what has the start of the fall been like for you? How are you doing?
It's stressful. Most people like learning in classrooms, and it's way more easier than instead of online because you can actually talk to the person face to face. You don't like if you write a message like, oh, okay, it sounds like you don't know how they're saying it. Like if you're over text or something, so you don't know how to basically consider it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that since we've all gone virtual or like not in person, like there are so many things, even little communication things that sort of get lost. And I know we can't wait for this festival to be like live up and again. Maybe once we can all gather, you can do the festival. You'll have your own booth. You can be there in person. But I do think it's special that we have found ways to be creative and to still like things like live streaming and things that we probably wouldn't have done. You know, have you had anything like that that's creatively been a blessing for you or new for you with all this free time, or has anything creatively new happened to you since March?
um, well, no, not really, except for like not having so much electronics around me actually lets you see what's going around you instead of like in like 24/7 on your phone. It actually opens your eyes sometimes. See what's going on.
I completely agree because we're all always just like like 10 seconds away from checking Twitter or email, or even just being um, just being like a nervous or scared or wanting to know what's happening. But I think you're right. It's those moments where we can pause and look around.
Yeah.
Maybe mean more now.
Yeah.
Well, I have had so much fun talking to you, but we're going to sign off for now. But everyone look for Jasmin Salas in the future. This is her Latino Arts Festival debut, and I'm so excited. And if you are interested in any of these works you've seen, we're going to put the link in the chat on all of the forums. So stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for talking with me, Jasmin.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.